And so sometimes we go to social media and we look at things and everything looks so glammed out. Everything looks so great. But are you in purpose?
Hello, you are listening to the Her Complexion Podcast. I am your host, Antionette Booker, the founder of Her Complexion Network, and this podcast where we discuss all things Black women, her career, her bag, and her melanin. Our podcast conversations will be all about Black women taking up space in the boardroom, Black women securing the bag through building generational wealth, and Black women becoming the best version of themselves by all means necessary. Hey, certified CEOs, welcome back to the Her Complexion Podcast. I am your host, Antionette Booker, the founder of Her Complexion Network, where we help Black women make the right connections at the right time. Before we jump into today's show, I want to remind you that open enrollment is taking place right now. If you want to level up your network and connect with high-level, like-minded entrepreneurs and professionals, then we invite you to join our network. To get started, visit our website at www.hercomplexion.com. All right, let's get into it. Today, I have a very special guest on the podcast, Mrs. Kimberly Bell, also known as Kim Bella. Kim is the definition of a go-getter, a jet-setter, and a boss. She is a serial entrepreneur, a mother, and everything above. She is the owner of Bella Studios, Rock the Bells Event Center, which she co-owns with her husband, and recently opened a new event center, which we'll hear more about later. Welcome, Kim Bella, to the podcast. How are you?
Hello, I am good. How are you?
I am doing well. It is such a pleasure to hear your voice. I just love you, Kim.
Oh, I just love you. I love you. Thank you for having me and even thinking of me.
Yes. So let's get into it. So, as you know, I'm always excited to run into you and speak with you. You are just an amazing person and have a good spirit. Kim, for those who don't know you, who know nothing about you, because you are everything here in Nashville, Tennessee, who are you? What exactly do you do?
Listen, you make me sound so big, right? So I appreciate the love. So I am a girl born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, out East Nashville to be exact. And I would like to say I'm just a girl who believed she could, so she did. If that doesn't sound too cliche, I am married. I have two beautiful daughters, one 15, one 25. I am a lover of God. He's first and foremost in my life. And I do nothing and I move not 1 inch without him. And I believe in the power of prayer and faith. And I believe in being that push in someone's life, because there have been different times in my life where I've experienced a lot of low moments. There was rejection that I faced as a young child. And that rejection kind of spilled over into my adult life. And it allowed me to not believe in myself, to have low self-esteem, to kind of be a people pleaser and not doing exactly what it is that's on my mind and on my heart and exactly what I wanted to do. And I think that came, like I said, from the rejection. And so, fast forwarding, growing up, I grew up in the apostolic church. And there was a love that I was taught for God that never left me even to this day. But I like to say that it was the church that saved me, because having gone through that rejection in my life, it did something to my heart. But because I was in the church, I was taught about God, and that particular type of faith I was in, it was an apostolic faith. And so you are solely focused on God. They have where you don't wear, makeup, you don't wear pants, and, everything has to be past the knees, past the elbows, just a very sheltered, if you will, life that I lived. And if I didn't if I wasn't in the church, let me say that if I wasn't in the church, I don't know how my life would have gone, because I would have tried to fill a lot of voids in my life. And I probably would have made some decisions that would have allowed my life to result in a different way. So I say that to say, and I'm not knocking the apostolic faith, I will, come on, let's bring the preacher, let's bring the choir, let's do it all. But just that particular lifestyle was a little shelter, which I like to say that saved me. And it kept me from a lot. And when I talk about this, I pause a lot, because my mind goes back to those moments where I remember where life was a little dark, but I still loved God, and I still believed in him, and my faith was still strong, but I didn't know where my life was going to go. But I later grew up, got 18, and realized, like, there's a lot going on out here in these streets, and I need to get out here. And so me and one of my really close friends at the time, we started to venture out a little bit, and we ventured out and got a taste of the outside world. And I ended up leaving the church, but my love for God never left. And I just remember praying to God for things in my life. I would get these jobs and not feel like I wasn't educated to where I had a college degree. Let me say that. But I guess it was my personality and my intellect that allowed me to receive good positions to where I could take care of myself. And at that time, I was a single parent. It was a bit of a struggle, but those positions that I was able to, receive and everything in the corporate America world, I was able to take care of my daughter. And let me just go back and say this. There was a struggle. I was a single mom. There was a struggle. And there were plenty times where we had $30 to last for 2 weeks. And there was a struggle there. And we got through it, and God was really good, and we never went without. If I can just kind of fast forward a little bit, I ended up praying to God about my life and my positions in this world, and things that I wanted him to do for me, because of what I had felt like I had gone through emotionally. And my favorite scripture is 1 Peter 5:10. And it's, after you've suffered a little while, God will restore you. At that time, I didn't know that scripture, but I remember feeling like I had been suffering. Like, I would get a job in corporate America, but when it was time to go for the big position, or the supervisor or the manager position, I wasn't qualified for the position, but I could train someone for that position, if that makes sense. I would always be an assistant. I would always go into the office and say, why did I get this position? I'm already doing it. And, my supervisors, managers would say, I just don't feel like you're ready. I just don't feel like you can do it. I think you're an amazing person, but I just don't feel like you can do it. And so for a while that stayed in my mind, like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. You know what I mean? I went through this rejection. I went through this. I did this. And so maybe I'm not. But I remember one night at church praying to God for a lot of things, some decisions I had made relationship wise. And one thing I had to remember was that I had to forgive myself. I went around with a lot of anger and bitterness for some decisions that I had made. And so I had to forgive myself. And in the midst of forgiving myself, I was asking God for more. And I wanted God to bless me and heal me and allow me to be able to do things that He had for me. And so I went through the suffering part. I went through the rejection part. And, I ended up meeting my husband, who I've been married to for 17 years, who I like to say is, my best friend and the most patient man in the world, because he should have left me a long time ago, and, he should have been gone, but his patience and his love, we're each other's best friend. And so I'm thankful for that. And so I just remember writing things down and praying to God and believing God. And I remember being at church one night, and I remember praying to God, to help me to forgive myself and to let some things go. And God, I want everything that you have for me. I started to almost manifest some things, things that I wanted. And I've always been one who, if I want to do something, I know in my heart and mind that I can do it. And I don't know if that's like a gift or what. And sometimes I would allow the opinions and the thoughts of others to hold me back. Like I knew I could do it, but I would be like, no, I'm not going, I don't know what, I don't know what they may say, or I don't know what they may do. I don't know what type of support I'm going to get. Are they going to believe this? Is this going to really, I would have those things in my mind, and I would think, no, they're going to, they're going to leave me if I use my voice, if I say something, because if you remember what I said earlier, the rejection that I received from my dad. My mom was like the most amazing person in the world. She was my very best friend. But that one thing that I wanted, I couldn't get it. I don't care what I did. I don't care if I was big, I was skinny, my hair was long. I did everything to try to be seen. But I kept receiving that rejection. So I held on to that. And so when I would write these things down and ask God for these things, I would believe them, but I didn't know if I could do them. And if that makes sense, like I believed in them, but I didn't know if I was good enough to do them. Just because, like, are they going to reject me? Are they not going to do this? So what I did was I would shrink myself. I would come in rooms and I would just watch and observe, and I would shrink myself because I'm thinking, well, if I say too much, I might talk myself out of it. But if I don't say enough, then, it was just a lot of things going on and in my mind. And one day, my husband and we got together and we realized that we had a lot of the same goals and dreams and things that we wanted to do. And, one day I thought, well, I was a part of a women's organization. I felt like God was taking me in a different direction, and I listened to him, and I moved on. And I remember God laying it on my heart to do women's empowerment. Now that term, women's empowerment, I don't know if that was the term then, but it was just like I had this dream and this vision of women coming together and women sharing their stories and their testimonies. And I thought, now listen, God, I don't know if you want me, like I'm just not really just gung ho on just being around a whole lot of women. But that was the vision. And I remember going to, at that time, my work bestie, and I was telling her about it. And she was like, Kim, I said, well, I just I can't make it make sense, but this is just what I'm seeing. And I remember her telling me you can do it. And I said, I'm going to start off with maybe like about 10 or 20 women. And she said, Kim, 10 or 20 women, you need to kind of stretch yourself a little. And so, that vision came with the women's empowerment. And I started off with like 70 to 73, women with that vision. And that moved on to now close to 300 women. That's about 6 years later, going to maybe the 7th year, where we do a quarterly movement for women for inspiration and motivational purposes. And we get together and women share their stories. We have girl boss brunches. We have anything that's inspiring, motivating, and uplifting. And so with that, when I did my first one, I thought, God, this is amazing. Okay, I hear you. But if you want me to continue to do this, I need a place to do it. I don't know. What do you want me to do? And I remember praying, if this is what you want me to do, then I need a place. So my husband was looking for another location because we realized that this was growing. And so by my second one, I was at a location out on Nolensville Road. And I remember the lady, she was so giving. She gave me the decor. It was just weird, but I thought, I get it, God. I'm being obedient. I get it. So I thought, okay, so the second one had doubled from the first one. And I thought, okay, now God, I'm going to do another one in another quarter. So, where are we going? So my husband was looking for a place for me to hold another, my next Brunch'n With. Well, at that time it was titled Her Testimony. And we ended up finding a location, but that particular location, it was up for sale, that building, and they were selling the business. And we were just coming to look at it. But on the conversation, the owner then said, are you all looking to rent the space out, or are you looking to own it? And we were like, are you selling the business? And we went back and forth. And so we went up my husband took me up to the facility. We prayed at the door, and we ended up meeting with the owners. The owners fell in love with us, and they said, it's you. We want to sell the business to you. And the price that they sold the business to us, the event space business to us, I mean, it was unbelievable. All we could do was cry. And it was so They gave us all their clients. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And we were able to shadow them and learn the business. And so right to this day, we have that event space, and it's been a blessing to us. It's been a blessing to so many people in the Nashville area. And that's where I held my events until we grew out of that space. And so now we stepped out on faith, and we just recently opened up our second location a few months ago. And so, those are doing great. And so we're so thankful for that. I remember saying, oh my God, I love, hair, and I love beauty, and I think that empowers women in some form. And I just wish I had a beauty salon. And, just trying to, fast forward really quick. I just remember saying that, and I wrote that down years ago, that I wanted my own salon, even though I couldn't do a lick of hair. Like I can't do any hair, but I loved that it would change a woman's self-esteem sometimes when they go into the salon. And so we prayed about it, manifested it, spoke to the owners, set up an appointment, met with them. And now I have salon suites. And so all this comes from, I feel like my purpose and my obedience. Sometimes God has visions, and I don't want to say visions. I think he has things for us to do. And it's in our obedience where the blessings and the alignment comes. And so there's no goodness of my own or anything that I've done or any kind of class that I've taken or anything like that to where I have acquired these things that I prayed about and that I've manifested. I think it was through obedience in my relationship with God.
You spoke about purpose, obedience, and just stepping out on faith, right?
Uh-huh.
So I definitely think that throughout any journey, whether it's in a corporate setting or an entrepreneurial setting, you do need those push friends.
Yes.
So when you think about this concept of obedience, purpose, and stepping out, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to find their purpose, or they're struggling to come up with this vision for their life? What advice would you give to them?
Sometimes our purpose may not lead us to, having my own podcast, having my own event space. Sometimes our purpose could be that of being a blessing to others. You may be the dopest cook. You may be the best decorator. You may be, sometimes we push our purpose to the side because we don't always feel like it's big enough. For me, I look at our purpose being whatever that thing is that you can do with your, for free, that thing that you love to do, whatever that is. And that can be the biggest thing that can turn into multi-million-dollar something, or it can be something that I just do it because I love it. I look at that as, sometimes our purpose.
I love it when you spoke about having a selfish season. And one of the things that you talked about was, hey, like sometimes your purpose is doing something for free. Now, I know in this day and time, especially on social media, people are always talking about, hey, don't do anything for free, right? Always charge for your time, charge for your services. So what advice would you give someone who wants to maybe do something for free, right? And just get themselves out there. But again, they're battling or fighting against this whole concept of charging for their time, charging for their services, if that makes sense.
Yes, social media will have you like on one, right? You just, everybody's, I think everybody's in the season of trying to get the bag versus like what your purpose is. And so sometimes we go to social media and we look at things and everything looks so glammed out. Everything looks so great, but are you in purpose? You know what I mean? Are they in their purpose? Is it fulfilling for them? And so sometimes, because I love doing what I do, motivating, pushing, inspiring, I will do it for free. I don't do it for free all the time. You know what I mean? Like, this is something, but I can and I will do it for free because it's something that I love to do. Now, when you are in that place and that is your purpose, I truly believe God will align some things for you. Like I go out and I pour into these women. Well, then, weeks later, I may get a call and say, hey, Kim, I'd like to invite you out to Chattanooga to come and speak to these women. And during the course of that, there may be an honorarium for this, and this. Well, then there's my blessing because I just poured into some people that, and there wasn't a cost on it. Does that make sense? And so everything doesn't always have to have a ticket on it in order for it to be a blessing. And sometimes we look at our blessings as it being monetary. God blesses us in so many different ways, with life, with strength, like keeping you from so many different things or turning some things around. And it's because of you being in your purpose, and sometimes you're not looking for, something back in return. You know what I mean? Sometimes your blessings come in different ways. It's not always what your bank account says. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants their bank account to look pretty good. We got bills to pay. We got stuff to do out here. You know what I mean? But at the same time, that relationship that I talked about earlier with God, and I know I'm not the holiest, so don't think it, you may see me out here, cutting up, you know what I mean? But my relationship with God has helped me get to where I am. And it's because I believe of my faith and how I trust him in all things.
So as we wrap up, Kim, here at Her Complexion, we ask all of the guests to complete a few statements before jumping off. If you don't mind, please fill in the blank for me. Outside of the accolades, the titles, and your accomplishments, who is Kimbella?
Kimbella is just your round-the-way girl who loves to have fun, who loves to live life, and loves to make memories.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I feel the most empowered when
I am in my purpose, when I am in my zone.
Okay, last statement. I wish Black women would
love each other, support each other, push each other more, so much more. I can't scream that enough. I want to scream really loud, but I don't want to mess up the speakers.
Lord Jesus. Okay, so Kim, how can people connect with you online?
My social media for Instagram is I am Kimbella 40. And my Facebook is Kimberly Bell. And then my website is www.iamkimbella.com.
All righty. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So if you are tuning in, I hope that you were able to catch some of the gems that Kimbella dropped today. Again, Kim, thank you so much for supporting me and supporting my businesses. Mm-hmm. And thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for thinking of me. And I pray and wish blessings on blessings to you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Again, my name is Antionette, and I hope that you jump on this Black Women in Excellence train with me. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast and check out the show notes for your free e-guide, 5 ways to build your network, and all things Her Complexion membership and merch. Until next time, sis, always protect your melanin.